Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to Preseason Raw. Probably the last Preseason Raw, because there's other games right after the Community Shield and that might not count. Yeah, let's go with that. But hello, I am joined by Stephen. How are you doing, Stephen?
Absolutely wonderful.
Good. Did you enjoy the game?
That was the best 2 hours of my summer.
Yes, it was. We also have Karl with us. How are you doing, Karl?
My brain is numbed after that. I have to be honest.
At least we get to talk about it now. But I mean, there was some interesting things to talk about. Maybe not a lot in the first 60-odd minutes whilst the young mixed team was on, but we will soldier on anywho. My first note, I'm just going to skip past the starting 11. And Stephen, how long did James Milner take to grow that beard?
Oh, I reckon the time it took him to put his kit on.
2 days.
No, I reckon a couple of hours.
Nah, he definitely takes 2 days to get ready for a game. He's got to psych himself up and oil the joints and stuff like that.
Get the WD-40 out.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's why his beard's so good. He uses WD-40.
Possibly, just to get it nice and oiled. To be fair, it's such an odd look with him having a beard. It really is, but we will move past it because, well, he didn't do much else. Starting 11, Karl. It was a mixed one. We had Adrian in goal, Milner at... Okay, this has really screwed up the lineup on Flash Score. We had Milner at left back. This has got it right back for some reason. Gomez, Kanate, Basetic was in midfield. He's apparently a left back on this. Mabai was at right back in real life. Keita, Jones, Basetic in midfield, as I say. Nunes, Carvalho, and Elliott. Yeah, obviously a mixed team there, Karl. I'm sure we've all heard of a few of the Salzburg lads because they have highly thought of. Susic has been linked with us and a few other big teams. Sesko has been linked with half of Europe. He seems to be the next Erling Haaland. And I've probably heard of a couple others, but they're the main two. So what are your thoughts on the starting 11?
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't all that surprising when you consider the Man City game to come on Saturday. We're still kind of building at the moment. We're in pre-season, and it would have been too much for a lot of the first team lads to play kind of anything more than a half hour and then be expected to go out against City and play, maybe 70 minutes or whatever the case might be. So clearly he was going to rotate somewhat. I suppose in that sense, Keita was a bit of a surprise because we were probably expecting him to start against City, and he may still well do so, but it seemed like Klopp was building up to playing him with Fabinho and Thiago kind of in every game in pre-season so far. But nonetheless, there was still players we were excited to see. Obviously, Nunes, fresh off the back of his 4 goals last week. Carvalho, Elliott, of course, it was an exciting front three. Obviously, Mabaye impressed in that first half against United in an attacking sense. Like he was a constant danger there, and again he looked lively today. But obviously they're all some things that stood out in the wrong way, and for me the midfield, the balance of having kind of Keita and Jones in there with Basic in behind, and I think that was maybe the one area where we were caught out in the first half, as I'm sure we'll come on to discuss.
Yeah, we'll definitely discuss the midfield. I think Jones, he always provokes discussion within the team, so we'll talk about him because you legally have to. My next note is LFC TV is poo because it crashed and this audio was out of sync for about half an hour in the build up. Well, we'll start off with the midfield because my other next note is Basic had a good start. I mean, Stephen, we'll start off with a positive. I think Basic, I think he was injured all of last season. Basically, he's came into pre-season. He's caught the eye a few times. He's obviously playing in a very mixed match team here tonight against a good Salzburg team. And I thought he was probably one of the only ones who impressed in that first half.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty positive in the main. He won the ball quite a lot. He popped up all over the place. He tried to be sensible in possession. I think sometimes he won the ball in positions where he maybe shouldn't have been. You know, a bit further wide or further up the pitch than you'd want him to be. You want him to be a little bit deeper watching the game and picking opportunities the way Fabinho does. But he's a kid and he's going to be enthusiastic and he's going to want to win the ball and make an impact. And I thought he was pretty decent. I quite enjoyed sort of Adrian popping up in midfield for a few minutes and having a Pepe Reina moment. That was quite fun. And I thought Naby was fairly positive. Looked a tad rusty with his final ball at times, but he played a lovely through ball only about 7 or 8 minutes in.
I think that's when LFC TV crashed.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I thought Naby. I thought Naby and is it Basic?
That's what I've been going with. It's probably wrong, but yeah.
I think they both had reasonably good games. You'd like to see more from Keita being the senior pro, but I thought he was okay. I don't want to pick on CJ, but it was a little bit disappointing today. It was that same old. Some of his decision making was a bit off, but he was popping up all over the place and trying to win the ball and trying to be a net positive, and he was all right. It wasn't bad. It was just all right. But the problem is when you're just all right in two of your midfielders and you've got a kid in the other one, you're not going to dominate against Red Bull, who are into their season and very, very well drilled. I don't have a lot to say about Red Bull, like Salzburg's individual players, but they were very well organised. And they made it hard for the midfield because they were getting into position. We gave them too much time to get back into position, which didn't leave us a lot of room for us to manoeuvre, did it?
No, not really. And you could see they were ahead in their fitness as well. And obviously they had, but I assume it was their first team out. But I don't really know, other than a couple of players I mentioned. Yeah, it was just it was an odd collection of players. I mean, we might as well bring up Jones here, Karl. He does divide opinion, like all of our midfielders, basically, apart from Fabinho. Even he gets the odd pelter by weird people. But yeah, I mean Jones, and by Keita by extension, but I'm sure people are bored of the Keita debate now because people either overlove him or overhate him when somewhere it's in the middle, yada yada yada. But Jones, I mean, even pre-game he was talking about his personal aims for the season and getting 10 goals and assists and 10 goals and 10 assists, I should say. I believe that's what he said. But I don't know. He still looks like the same player. I know it's only pre-season, but we have to talk about something. But he kind of looks like the same player he has done always. Maybe even less exciting, if anything.
Well, obviously, I have to start by inserting the joke that clearly those 10 goals and 10 assists are going to be for Gladbach. But jokes aside, yeah, I mean, before I jump on CJ's back. Like my main problem with the midfield, as I alluded to, was the balance. I think for the most part, in recent times we tend to have one of our box to box players who kind of plays more like a kind of second striker. But I felt today like both of them wanted to be the second striker, and that led to big gaps. And Red Bull were able to take full advantage of that. I mean, on CJ himself, I mean, there's no denying the lad has a lot of talent. There's no denying that the lad puts a lot in. He's always high energy. But the problem is, for me, as Steve touched on, his decision making, and there's a real inconsistency with it. I mean, there's some games where it feels like he plays more kind of on instinct, and they're the good CJ games. And then there's games where he just seems to get every decision wrong. He's either dawdling on the ball far too much, like he'll dribble past the player, and then you'll be like, right, just roll it out to Mo, and then he'll just try and dribble past the second player and lose the ball, or run into traffic. Or there's times where the simple kind of 1-2 or that is on, and he'll try and tread the ball through the eye of a needle when it's not open to do so, and the opposition will just get the ball and clear it. He can be frustrating to watch at times, and I just don't know what's to be done with him. I know I made the joke about Gladbach, and I know a lot of people, Dave and the like, think that maybe a loan out and playing regular football is the only thing that's going to kind of cure that inconsistency and get some consistent decision making on his part. But I just don't know what to be done, because there is a lot of talent there, and I really want to see it kind of come to fruition at Liverpool.
Did you want to say something there, Stephen? I think you jumped in for a sec there.
I was just going to say, like, good championship winning teams historically always had some fairly average players who knew their role, worked hard, wanted to be part of the team. Fergie was the absolute master of it, with players like Darren Fletcher, John O'Shea, Nicky Butt. And maybe CJ's role is just to be one of those players. For our club, he's just an average midfielder. For other teams, he might be a starter. But maybe his job is just to come in and try and retain the ball, to try and be positive and get forward, and to cut in on the right and try and smash in a 40-yard shot once a season. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if that's what Klopp wants out of him. It's whether he can accept that his choice at this point in his career is either just be that player, or to go on loan, or to move on to a player where he can be a starter and a bigger impact.
Yeah, and I think NFI in the chat there makes a good point. We don't really have a clear understanding what his role is. I think it's been discussed what midfield role he'd actually suit best, and I think he'd be best in that attacking role on the right side. Obviously,
but he tends to. He gets picked on the left a lot more.
He does, and obviously, I think we have more set options in the left. I think there's a clear pecking order. Thiago's 1 and Naby's 2. So maybe that's why he's kind of just seen there when Naby's playing on the right side. It's Jones as the third in that role. But yeah, I think from mainly what we saw in his first senior year when he scored against Everton, the attacking instinct was there. So I'd rather see him in that right-sided role. But we have Elliott, we have Carvalho now who can play there. Naby can obviously play there, but Henderson's first choice. Ox, etc. And probably Milner suits that role better as well. So maybe just the fact that right centre mid role's basically overcovered for without maybe one standout option, whereas the left centre mid role there's a clear pecking order, but we know the injury issues there, so maybe he's just trained for that in case. But how old is Curtis? He's 21 and he's turning 22 this season. So yeah, obviously still time on his side, but I think I agree with what you said there, Karl. I think a loan would have been good for his development this season, and maybe if we got Chouameni, which was obviously the big transfer story, basically halfway through last season when Ornstein reported it might have been different. But hey ho, he's here. Hopefully he does develop. But yeah, basically it is pre-season, and maybe he plays better if he gets a run with Thiago and Fabinho and Henderson or whatever. But yeah, judging him when he's playing with a 17, 18-year-old DM and Naby who flip-flops between roles, it's maybe not the best to see him. But yeah, I think he does need to take a leap this season, or he could become one of them squad players, as you mentioned, Stephen, or he could just be someone to cash in on, like a Nico Williams or something like that.
Yeah, like the reality is he's the third choice of both sides of the number 8s. If Carvalho is going to play in the front three, as Klopp has alluded to, and it looks like that's what Harvey might be doing this year. And he's got to prove he's good enough to be third at the moment. Has to prove he's good enough to be third choice in both options, and he should be targeting trying to force Hendo out of the number 8 positions. So he's got to take a big leap this year. Hopefully he can do it, but I don't know. I think maybe Ox is kind of the ceiling for him, and Ox has always had good games and average games and bad games, and maybe that's what he'll be. He'll just be that, for us, that Darren Fletcher equivalent that Klopp can turn into a reasonably reliable, slightly above average, but not world-beating player.
Yeah, I mean, there's still time if we do sign the elusive midfielder, maybe he does go out on loan. But we saw, I mean, it's a bit different from him and Morton, but Morton's been linked with a loan, but we kind of kept him around just for pre-season. So maybe something changes. I doubt it at this stage, but I'd still like the loan to happen. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully he does make the jump, as you say, because that is the most important thing, is him developing. That was basically the first half. Let's move on. No. Next note, I like Carvalho. Then he didn't really do much. He did a nice bit of skill. Adrian wandered into midfield. I think you mentioned it, Stephen. It was offside, though, fortunately.
It was funny, though.
It was. It was. We got a few Aston Villa flashbacks in this game. Gomez did a pass out. I think it was a poor pass to Basetic, to be fair, and then they had a couple of chances. Salzburg manager's an angry man. Yep. Naby can't shoot, bless him. Let's talk about Darwin, because he's been the story of pre-season, mostly by non-Liverpool fans. Karl, this is your fault, because he's not allowed to score whilst you're on podcast.
Apparently not. But I think he was nonetheless, showed his striker instincts and what we brought him in for. I mean, obviously he got on the end of a header that most players wouldn't have any business of getting on the end of, although it was straight at the keeper, and a shot from a difficult angle, he managed to hit the woodwork. So he was a danger, and that was despite being up against a centre half in Solé, who really made a battle of things. It was
He did.
It was a good scrap between the two of them. So, obviously it wasn't Nunes' day today in terms of getting a goal, but I think the service wasn't fantastic. We didn't create a lot of clear-cut chances in that first half, and the kind of half chances he had, he made the best of. So, it's exciting to see kind of as that develops going forward, because it's something we haven't really had in a long time. I mean, we have it to a degree with Jota. He does have kind of that instinct in and around the box, and we had it in the moments of clarity for Divi, but it was, it wasn't kind of sustained, and obviously that's something that we had in spades back in the day at Liverpool, and we had Michael Owen, Fowler, Torres, Suarez. We were these players, complete instinctual strikers. So it's good to have it back, and I'm sure we will see a lot of it moving forward, and there's a lot more to come from this lad.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think very good movement, even when LFC TV broke. So yeah, a couple nice through balls from Naby to him. I think there was a few minutes after these couple chances as well that he created. But yeah, it's.
I think that's a good point you made. His movement was good, but it didn't look like the players around him were seeing his movement or his patterns yet. So he would be on the shoulder of the midfield. And, Naby did play a good through ball to him. But maybe as Naby gets used to him, he releases that ball that quarter of a second earlier, which is what gets him in behind. There were a few times like when he hits the crossbar, maybe if that's Trent, not Mbaye, maybe the ball's played in a slightly different angle to give him more of a shot. I think it just comes if the players around him are getting to know him, and there were a few kids on the pitch today. So I don't think we can take too much from Darwin tonight because he was trying to do the right things. He just wasn't he just wasn't being given the service, as you said. But at least we can look at the movement and say, look, he's doing what you want him to do.
And they defended like it was a Champions League final. They did not want to lose that game. To be fair, I like that Soler that Karl mentioned. But yeah, Darwin, good movement. I think the goals will come. One of the shots that hit the bar, I think it took a deflection. It was an excellent shot. And then defended well by them, to be fair. I think it was Bernardo in a couple of the situations. What else have we got? Salzburg miss an open goal, which was hilariously bad, but it was also hilariously bad by Joe Gomez. Anyone else have Aston Villa flashbacks there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were cut open a few too many times on the counter. Obviously we talked about that Adrian going into no man's land, but fortunately he was offside, and there was a couple of moments where Kanate had to do some brilliant one-on-one defending to deny them, and James Milner made one of his trademark Superman tackles at one point. It was. It did feel like one of those games where maybe the high line and also, as I said, it didn't help that the lack of balance in midfield was kind of exposed. But I think, as I said on one of Nina's shows last season, I think when you take that kind of gamble with the high line, you're gonna have one of those games every kind of 10 games or whatever the case might be. So we kind of just take it on the chin at this point.
Yeah, very true, very true. Plus, if we play with Adrian, it's not really canon, is it? That's how I go with it nowadays. I know he made a couple good saves, but still not canon. What else have we got? I literally noted down Soler looks good. Not sure how old he is or whatever, but he's probably about 12 because he plays for Red Bull Salzburg. There was that missed Darwin chance from the Naby pass, and then Salzburg go 1-up. I mean, Stephen, Ben, you make Football Manager. There's a reason you made Sesko good.
Just before the Sesko goal, the commentary was bloody awful.
Oh, yes, I got to tell you.
There was a lovely quote, didn't we play them one year? And they just started talking about Shakhtar Donetsk and whether we played them or not. Like, what on earth were they talking about? It's Gary Gillespie, isn't it? The Yeah, I don't know what he's on. But yeah, the Sesko goal was very good, and he appears to be quite popular around the office. But yeah, it was a nice, really nice 1-2. But I did write down that, was it an Ibu mistake? He was quite far across.
He was, yeah.
And should he have actually left it to Gomez and Basetic to try and tidy up and actually stay on his side of the pitch? I don't know.
It seemed to be a collection, didn't it? I think there was a missed press in midfield, and then I do agree. Ibu just went, I'll deal with this myself.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a Degsy Skirtle moment, wasn't it? But you can forgive him because he had a teenager in front of him in the six, a right back that I'd never heard of until this pre-season, but I did write down Mbaye over Alan Wan-Bissaka in my notes. And Milner, who I know he made some lovely tackles, but he's not a left back. Just stop it. Play one of the young kids at left back. Stop playing James Milner at left back. So, from a defensive perspective, it was a little bit all over the shop and disappointing, but it was also a bit of a pre-season goal, as you'd say in inverted commas.
Yeah.
But it was a lovely finish.
It really was. It really was. And to be fair, Karl, it was overshadowed by his turn. I think it basically retired James Milner, and I think it basically retired I think it was Fabio Carvalho as well. I've heard of him mainly through Football Manager, which I jokingly said, but it's the first time I've seen him. And looking at his record there, he scored 5 goals last year in the Austrian league, which isn't loads, but he's clearly talented. I think you said in our WhatsApp they want a record fee for a teenager, which is about 200 odd million. I don't think it'll get to that level, but if Bobby leaves next year, or even this year if the Juventus stuff is real, let's be fair, it probably isn't, but we'll say what if. I mean, he looks like he's in the next list of good strikers coming through.
Let's be fair, he's either going to Leipzig next summer, or they're selling him for big money, like Nunez money.
We're mates with them, Stephen.
They know what they're doing, though. Their whole ethos is about, because he started at the feeder club before that. I can't remember the name of the club that these players do. He started there. Their whole plan is to get into Leipzig and sell him for 80 million.
Was Karl?
Yeah, I mean, as you pointed out, Guy, just 5 league goals last season. I think he had 11 competitive goals all in all. Like, he hasn't played all that much football for Salzburg yet. So I think despite the talk of Real Madrid and United, I think it's more so that they're watching him with the future in mind. So I'd expect that he'll probably stick around Salzburg for the season. But as Steve said, you wouldn't be surprised to see him moving to Leipzig for 20 odd million next summer, and then them looking to double or triple that a couple of years down the line. He does look a real talent, but he's certainly still raw, and obviously you'd expect that at his age. And you can see why they were kind of comfortable with seeing Adeyemi go off to Dortmund when they just had another one in the chamber. Like, it's ridiculously impressive that the Red Bull set up and the scouting network they have. Like, they just roll them out one after the other. And I really hope our kind of friendship with them continues to grow, and maybe we find ourselves at kind of the top of that Red Bull feeding kind of conveyor belts, because we'd be getting some good ones from there.
Do you wonder if that's why some of their players were so competitive today? Because they have seen Taki, Ibu, Mane, Keita, they've all come through Red Bull in one way, shape or form, and they've all gone on to play for us. And they've all known that those players have played well against us and been signed for us. So if you play for that club, you know that you're a style of football that our recruitment teams like. And you know that if you impress against us, we're going to watch you. And I did wonder that a couple of times, especially the centre-back whose name suddenly escapes me.
Soleo Bernardo.
Because at some point, Matip is going to get old. And he's going to want first-team football, and he might not get it with Ibu coming through. So maybe he's thinking, I quite fancy a bit of that next year or the year after. Who knows?
We can send Matip to Leipzig. And we can bring Soler to us. I presume that's who you're talking about. Yeah. No, I think it is. I think you look at scouting networks in Europe and stuff like that, and Leipzig, the way they're set up, I think it is basically the best in Europe in terms of unearthing talents from all different parts of it. I think that, where is he Slovenian? Yeah, he's Slovenian. So yeah, taking him to Liefering as you both said, and getting him in the system early, it is crazy how they do stuff. But yeah, we basically have a pre-season friendly scheduled with them every year now, and we train in Austria. So yeah, and as you said, we saw Haaland up close and personal a few years ago in the Champions League. We obviously got Minamino. So yeah, I think we'll be targeting them and Leipzig quite a lot, really. But if we can de facto become RB Liverpool, but maybe the top of the tree instead of Leipzig, it could be fun. Not saying Red Bull should buy us, but they are very rich. They probably could do. Don't know why I said that. Whoa, right. Second half, we make some subs. They change their entire team. I'm not going to go through it, but we bring on Bobby for Darwin, Robbo for Milner and Morton. Naby saving probably more of the first team legs for Saturday and maybe Sunday if they're scheduled to play in that one. Basically, we start off pretty well. Robbo has a nice cross. I think it was meant for Bobby, but it almost falls to Harvey at the back post. Robbo tries to dummy a cross in their box. It falls to no one eventually. Ibu does a nice block on Simic, who was one of their subs. Mabaya, you mentioned him there, Stephen, for a sec. You've never heard of him before pre-season. I think you're in the same boat as many of us there. I thought first half he looked a bit ropey, but in the second half, when the more established players came on, he obviously he was before the raft of subs and 60, but he looked more settled in the second half.
I thought he looked okay in the first half, but in the second half, around this point, I've written down that him and Elliot were starting to really link up really well. I know the shot came from, Bobby does a Bobby thing, wins the ball, and then Bobby goes on a bit of a run, and then it all goes wrong on the edge of the box, and there's a free kick. But he did look very confident. He looked like a kid who's come in and gone, you know what? People like Trent and Harvey have worked hard and proven their worth and got into the team, and maybe he's thinking that maybe that's something he should be aiming for the next season or two. So I thought he was positive. I was only half messing when I put Mbai over AWB because he actually tried to cross and pass and shoot and defend and do all the things you want from a fullback. But
not just slide, tackle, and vibe then.
Exactly. I mean, obviously not the composure of our other fullbacks, but he looked. He was one of the few positives of the game. I thought he was okay. And he won a free kick in like that perfect 90s FIFA position, back when you used to have the ball and hit the position, and if you had Del Piero in your team, you'd score every time. It was one of those kind of free kicks. When Harvey lined up, I was like, oh, maybe this is going... Oh, no, it's not. It's rubbish.
Yeah. I mean, Karl, who was our last good free kick taker? Was it Fabio Aurelio 70 years ago? I feel like it was.
No, I'd say Coutinho.
He was more like 1 in 500 though, but it was really memorable.
I don't know, that's harsh. I thought he was a good free kick taker. He wasn't a great kick taker. I'd imagine you're. I suppose in the era of Aurelio, Aurelio was very consistent, and then you also had obviously Gerrard, who could just hit those thunderbolts.
Either hit the wall or went in. There was no
exactly, yeah. So I think that was probably our most recent kind of solid time for free kicks, and then obviously before that, you look at the likes of Gary Mack and such back in the early noughties. But it's certainly been a while since we had a consistent free kick taker. I mean, Trent obviously has a lot of talent on them, but he just lacks that consistency. I'm hopeful in a couple of years' time, Trent can count himself among kind of our good free kick takers of the past. But it is frustrating how wasteful we can be with them in the here and now.
Corners as well. Seeing as we score a lot of corners, our corners either go in or they're dreadful. There's no middle ground with them. But yeah, it is odd. It is odd with our set pieces. But yeah, I think Trent is the one we've got to pencil in unless we get a new signing who's good at them.
Costas. Costas takes good corners. He takes good corners.
Oh, it doesn't count. He doesn't count. I like saying Philip Deggan was good at corners.
Behave.
He was also really fast.
Exactly. He was also very bad, but right, we bring 59th minute. We bring on the first team. Basically, I'm not going to list it out because you know who it is. A couple minutes later, we have lovely interplay by Thiago, Diaz, and Henderson. That leads to a Diaz shot. Good save by their keeper, to be fair. Trent with a disgusting pass, because that's what he does. We did an offside goal. It was pretty clearly offside. There was a big time jump there because I forgot to take notes for 15 minutes. Trent, good shot, TV save by the keeper. Bobby did a flick-on shot in the resulting corner. And we decided we will try our best not to score. I think Henderson missed a cross just literally in front of the goal. He missed the ball basically. Maybe they got a touch on it. And then basically my last note is I thought we had a penalty, but it was a really good tackle by them. By that player, to be fair. Anything to add, lads? I know you had a couple commentary pieces you want to bring up, Stephen.
That was a good quality quote again. Just after Matic gets fouled, the ref plays on, and Mo gets fouled, and I can't remember which one the commentator said. I think it was Gillespie again, and he said he's not one to get angry about Matip. Like, does he watch the same all limbs, like no context John Matip that the rest of us watch, where he stomps up and down the pitch with his arms and legs flailing around, shouting at referees during the rest of the season?
Gary Gillespie does not respect memes. That's what we'll take from this.
Yes, so I thought that was a particularly dumb comment, and there were lots and lots of rubbish corners. More rubbish corners.
Yeah.
Rubbish corners. Hendo did some weird chip to Mo, and it was like, what do you want him to do with the ball? You've chipped it like 8 feet in the air, and he's like,
Is that the one where he like got tackled about knee height and nobody mentioned it?
Yeah, he sort of tries to do something with it, but he can't really do anything with it because he's got no chance in hell. It's just I just don't understand. Hendo obsessed with trying to chip the ball into places.
It'll work now. He's got Darwin. He's got a target man up front.
And then because we couldn't score, the best quote was from the other commentator, and it was, he said, a mole would pop up out of the surface and head it away while talking about if we actually had a shot on target. But it was kind of funny because it was one of those games, right, when I think it literally is when Fabinho shoots and it goes out for a throw in. That's the point where we're not scoring today.
It really was. I think the commentators alluded to themselves. We could have been there another hour and probably never scored. But I mean, Karl, we looked a lot more in control when the first teamers came on. They obviously took a lot of plays off themselves, which probably helped us in that case as well. But before we finish, we might as well take a look at Saturday. Firstly, do you take it seriously? Is it the Charity Shield or the Community Shield? I always call it the Charity Shield. But do you care about the Charity Shield, or do you just see it as a pre-season game?
I mean, to me, it's just a glorified friendly. I mean, if they want us to treat it as a cup, make it a two-legged affair and call it the English Super Cup, that's always been my opinion. I look at the Spanish kind of the Super Cup in a different light because I think they treat it with a bit more respect. I mean, the fact that you can split the Charity Shield says a lot to me. So to me, it's a friendly. I mean, look, it's great to score some points over City, and we know if I know Twitter will be unbearable if we lose because between the City fans who'll be claiming they won a cup final against us and our fans who'll absolutely lose their shit over, as I said, a glorified friendly. So I'd rather avoid that situation. So for that reason, I hope we win. And obviously, I hope we win every game anyway. I mean, I would like to win today. I'm not bothered that we lost, but it would have been nice to win. So I do hope we can pull off a result. But for me, for the most part, I just want to see us start with kind of something that's more in line with what we're going to see against Fulham, and that we kind of see what the plan's going to be. And maybe if well, I have my doubts he'll start, but maybe if Nunes gets on around the hour mark and gets maybe 15-20 minutes alongside kind of more the first team in air quotes, and we give him a chance to kind of bed in with them, that would be a positive as well. I mean, it really is. It's just a dress rehearsal for Fulham in my eyes. I'm sure that's what Klopp will be treating the game like, and that's what he needs to treat it like, and hopefully it's a good preparation.
Yeah, hopefully. Stephen, I mean, last thing before we go, do you reckon that second half team will be the team for Saturday, basically? with Alisson, hopefully, instead of Adrian.
I think the only real considerations are Keita versus Hendo and maybe a little cheeky surprise of Núñez versus Bobby. I think there's a chance he started because they wanted to get the minutes in him. Who knows? But I kind of like the Charity Shield when you win it, and I don't really care when you lose. So it is basically a pre-season game, but a pre-season game with a piece of shiny, I don't know, plate you can put in your trophy cabinet and pretend it's a trophy if you're certain other clubs.
Yes, I think it's the only reason Man United fans claim to be the most successful team in England now, isn't it? The Community Shield, I think. But yeah, I think it'll be the couple disputed positions. I think won't surprise me if it's Henderson or Keita in midfield, and probably Ibu or Matip. I think they're the ones you got to flip the coin on. But Darwin, Bobby, maybe that's another one to flip the coin on. But yeah, it should be interesting. I think it's Strasbourg on the Sunday as well. That will probably be a lot more under 23s and maybe people who didn't get on the Saturday. But yeah, it should be hopefully a good game on Saturday, and well, basically people use it to answer Fantasy Premier League questions. But yeah, that's it. That's it from us. I think we got about 40 odd mins from that game. Hopefully the Saturday game's a bit more fun. I believe it is me doing Raw. I still have to find guests for that as well, because the usual Raw lads still treat it as a pre-season game, so that might answer the debate there, but they'll be ready for Fulham. Don't worry about that, people. But yeah, back on Saturday. Thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.